have good job training, if you have ways to keep people occupied, you really cut down on your security issues that you're working with. And my hands are going like this because I always regard it as a pyramid, that you give every inmate physically at all capable, and we did about 85% of the inmates had a regular assigned job throughout the prison day. And you just make sure that everybody has that discipline, and then some have the skills, some have the focus of job performance, and you move them up to the next level of responsibility and the next level of responsibility, and that becomes real re-entry focus. But in today's world, which of course is 25 plus years later, the ban the box issue is a very serious issue, that even if you come out with those skills, the problem of getting into the door and being interviewed becomes a very deep problem, as well as issues having to do with the expanded list of barrier crimes. Having worked so directly with prisons, I know that there are some very serious criminal acts that we are dealing with, and people who have come out of the kind of background that I've been describing, as well as the very serious unmet needs in our mental health system that also are all part of what is going on. But with all of that, we have expanded barrier crimes, so that even in some of the programs that some individuals might be suited for, the barrier crimes, as the expanded list goes, bars that. So one final thing, and this now comes to something that I tried this year, many years ago, when I was in the legislature before being secretary. I was naive enough to put in a bill to say that a shoplifting of over $200 was not a felony. Well, I learned my lesson. Talk about opposition that you get. And here we are today, still with that same incredibly low limit compared to what you see in all of the other states. No effect for inflation. One of the approaches that I took, saying, okay, if it's under 18, and if there's no other offense in that record of the individual, that we will waive. That will not be a record that has to be carried then every time. So until you're 35, 45, 55 years old, you would have to check the box. And with that, when I came up with that idea that it wouldn't get in the way of the concern of the merchants, that it's just a license to steal, I thought, well, okay, this might actually take it. Well, unfortunately, of course, it didn't, but what I found out along the way, that yes, I don't have the numbers, I didn't have a good fiscal impact statement that went with it, unfortunately, but with juvenile workers after juvenile involvement, again and again I heard, yes, it would make a difference, that there's a very large population out there of young people when they were under 18 that took something that was over $200, and they will have to check that box for the rest of their lives as we look at our challenges of making sure that we give people economic opportunity and job placement, so that we don't continue or dig into the cycle of dysfunctionality and poverty.
Thank you. That's very powerful. I would note that we worked on that with Fairfax County. We got ban the box through rather quickly, and they were very responsive. Shortly after that, the governor issued an executive order, but it's only for state employees. I'd like to move on to mini group 4, which would include Delegate Boysko. I know that you've had an interest in driver's license, provincial licenses for immigrants, and Delegate Lopez as well. And in particular, I think this is an issue for the people that get out of prison. Sometimes if they have fines and fees that they haven't been able to pay, they're denied driver's license, and there's no way they can get a job. Could you address your interest in that for us?
Absolutely. Thanks, John, and thanks to everybody for inviting us here today. Alfonso Lopez, Kay Corey, I, and Rob Bloxham sponsored a variety of bills that would expand who could have a driver's license in Virginia. My bill focused on people who are here legally in the United States, whether they are refugees or here because it's unsafe for them to be in their home countries and they're here legally. But in Virginia, they are not allowed a driver's license legally. So that means they don't have the ability to take their children to work or to go, to school or to get themselves back and forth from work. The three bills were heard before the Transportation Committee. Mine specifically would have impacted 6,000 people. There was absolutely no fiscal impact, and it would have been able to be implemented by July this summer. It was supported by the sheriffs, the police, the immigrant groups, some of the chambers of commerce. Unfortunately, it was tabled, and DMV supported it. We worked very closely with DMV. It was tabled along with Alfonso Lopez's and Kay Corey's, and Rob Bloxham's was put into a study which is going to encompass everybody, including undocumented immigrants. So the first meeting for this study is going to be next week. I'm going to be following it closely. Bloxham is the point of contact for the legislature, but I'm going to be speaking with other people, including the DMV, who's really convening the study. It is my hope that we will be able to carry this bill again next year. It was a common sense, pragmatic piece of legislation. I think it should have passed. Unfortunately, that's the way it goes in the General Assembly sometimes. But the opportunity to help thousands and thousands of people get back and forth from work legally with a real driver's license, with insurance, understanding that they know how to drive because they've gone through the required testing, I think makes a good amount of sense.
Thank you. We're going to welcome you to General Assembly. This is your first session, and we enjoyed meeting with you and supporting you. Delegate Lopez, I understand there's anti-immigration bills that we're looking for the governor to veto. You want to say a few words about that?
I was coming up talking about something else. Okay. Sanctuary city bills.